Good to be back. Good to be anywhere, I guess.
Well, if you could,
day for practice.
That's right. And if you could be anywhere, I know you would pick the NovaCare Center. There's no other place you'd rather be.
Yeah, that or the beach. They're 1 and 1A.
Well, I will take the beach for you down here. You can stay up there with the Eagles. I'll tell you. Never a dull moment there, Phil. And I definitely want to start off by asking you about your opinion so far of Sam Bradford, because obviously in the mini camps and the OTAs, he looked, people didn't know. He was hobbled. Was he going to be ready? Well, not only is he ready, he apparently looks pretty good. What is your opinion of what you've seen from Sam Bradford so far?
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's no question he's got a really strong arm. I mean, he always did, but I think in St. Louis he kind of got lost in the shuffle there. It was a team nobody had to pay much attention to most of the time he was there, and so he kind of disappeared in all the noise you hear about the rest of the NFL. He was not a guy you thought much about, even before he got hurt. Just seemed like he was in a no-win situation there for a while. But seeing him, up close and in person every day, I mean, the ball comes out fast, in terms of from the time he gets a hold of it to he makes a decision and throws. And it comes out with, his accuracy is really very good. It's probably as good as any as I've seen out here covering Eagles camps over the years. Wherever he wants it to go is where it goes. And we don't always see that with guys. But, I think, the idea that there was going to be a competition, I think we all agree that, Chip Kelly wanted to kind of put that out there because he wanted to have competition. He wanted to have guys feel like they were working for a reason, guys like Sanchez and Tebow. But I think that what we can now say probably that Chip Kelly also knew that if they had an open competition, Dan Bradford was winning. So it's pretty clear that Bradford is up to 4 quarterback, has the best skill set, has the best arm. He seems to have a good feel for everything they're trying to do out here. Sanchez has a year head start on the offense. It really looks to be, just from watching the drills, this is not with a pass rush to his face and all that stuff. All that aside, it just seems like, Bradford has as good a handle on all this as anybody else. So he's a smart guy, strong arm. Things you need to be a great quarterback are there. If he can stay on the field and be healthy and, be surrounded by good talent, we can find out then if he's, as good as he was touted to be.
Yeah, and obviously I don't know that Pat Shurmur today said or tipped his hand, but do you anticipate, Phil, that Sam Bradford will in fact play at least a series or two on Sunday?
That's my expectation. Kelly kind of did answer the question yesterday, and then Shurmur today was sort of keenly aware that his boss had not answered the question. He was not going to volunteer any information that Chip didn't want out there the day before. So, reading between the lines, reading Sam Bradford's eyes when he talked about it yesterday, I think they'd be making a mistake by holding him back. I think he wants to play. He's ready to go. He wants to show his teammates, what he's got, what he can do, what he has to offer. To be a quarterback and to lead a locker room, as Geno Smith learned yesterday, there's a lot of other variables in the mix there. You've got to be the guy that people look to in the huddle, when the game's on the line. You've got to build that. And Sam Bradford is anxious to get out there and build it. He's doing well in camp, but, he hasn't taken a hit. As you said yesterday, once you get hit, knocked down, and get back up and run the next play, that's when you start to feel like, you're getting back to normal. And he hasn't done any of that for, 2 years now, basically. A little bit last summer, I guess, but not very much for 2 years. And he needs that. And he needs to do it with this team and with his coaching staff and with these fans watching them, too. I think it would be a mistake unless there's an absolute medical necessity to hold him out. And my guess is that he'll play. Probably not that much, maybe 2 series, but enough to at least get out there and give people a look at what Sam Bradford's all about.
Yeah, I think that would be fine too, Phil. Just 2 series. But I want to ask you this question because you mentioned something that really opened my eyes. You said in all the time you've been covering the Eagles, this is a long time, that he's as accurate as anyone as you've seen. And we saw Nick Foles last year. Very successful the year before. Not as successful last year. What is a big difference between Bradford and Foles in your mind that will make this team justify making this move?
Well, if he's the guy that he's supposed to be, it'll be that. It'll be his his ability to be spot on and make the right decision. Make it quickly and make the right one. I think Nick ran into a lot of times last year where he did not see the open guy quite in, just quite in that split second that you have to find him and get the ball out. So he would see too late that somebody had been open but was now not open, and then start looking around for the next guy in his progression. And by that time, there's starting to be a pass rush. The offensive line was a little banged up around him. So I think Bradford's ability to see it and think it and be on top of that is really good. I mean, that was part of his reputation before he got to the NFL. It was what they were saying about him early on in his career in St. Louis. He's a very smart guy. He's a bright football mind. That all is there. Not that Nick isn't those things, but you're talking about tenths of a second here. And in the NFL, if you're a tenth of a second ahead of the defense, that's a lot. If you're a tenth of a second behind, next thing you know, you're running around, trying not to, get crushed. And that's where Foles, you saw that a lot last year. He was throwing off his back foot. He was backing up and trying to, sometimes avoid a rush that wasn't even coming because he just felt that it was coming. So Bradford seems to be a guy that just has his eyes downfield and is very quick to see something and go for it right away. Tebow was talking about, yesterday a little bit about, trying to make better decisions. That was one of the things he had to learn. And, he felt better about it, like he was doing a good job of, improving that part of his game. But even as he was saying it, I'm thinking, if you're a quarterback and you are in the pocket and you have the ball in your hands, making that decision and getting the ball out is better than making the right decision a half second later. You know what I mean? Even if it's the wrong decision, if you make it and you make it authoritative and you make a good throw, an accurate throw, that might not be the perfect read or the best absolute, prime decision to make in that situation, but it's still better than hesitating, not being sure, making a throw that you're not 100% sure of or don't really believe in. It looks like Bradford does that. And Foles did not do that last year. He was taking hits. He probably took some of them because he was not getting rid of the ball fast enough. Other ones were out of his control. But when a quarterback starts to get beat up like that, they start to lose that a little bit too. Bradford seems to have it right now. I mean, a guy who's torn his ACL twice is a guy you could expect to be a little gun shy. And it'll be interesting to see if he gets into a live situation on Sunday or whenever that is, if he has that, capacity to stand in the pocket with chaos around him and keep his eyes downfield. That's hard to do when you're taking some hits, and Bradford obviously has.
Yeah, Phil Sheridan's with us. ESPN.com, NFL Nation covers the Eagles. What is the thinking of the third quarterback? I mean, is Barkley a guy they like and are trying to figure something out? Is Tebow clearly going to be the guy, or is that a real battle? How do you make because if Tebow's the third guy and they like him because he can add something, do they activate him and play him, or do they? I think they changed that rule, but how do you kind of surmise what they're going to do with that third quarterback spot? Because with Tebow in the mix, I guess it makes it somewhat of a story.
Yeah, it does. And, I mean, Tebow is a phenomenon in that regard. It's got nothing to do with exactly what's happening on the field necessarily. We get the open practices at the link the other day, and there's, fans down there with Florida jerseys and Tebow signs. And, I mean, he's got a following that has nothing to do with the Eagles. It transcends them. He's just a lightning rod kind of figure, and people, care about him a lot. My sense of it through this is better than Tebow, I think, to win the job over Tebow. At the end of last year, I go back to that Giants game. After they were eliminated from the playoffs, they had to play the Giants. They had lost a couple games in a row, 3 games in a row, and Sanchez had been the quarterback for all of those. It just seemed like a really good opportunity to play Matt Barkley. I mean, here's a guy, who's standing there all year. He's, been the backup. Didn't really get any playing time. Had been in a couple of games his rookie year, but never started a game, got to prepare for a game. It seemed like an excellent opportunity if you believed in Matt Barkley or you saw a future with Matt Barkley on your roster. That was an opportunity to help him grow as a player learn something about him, or even if you were going to eventually try to trade him, get some film out there. What if Matt Barkley had a really good game and looked really sharp and made some great throws, and all of a sudden you have a commodity there? But they didn't do it. Chip just said, I want to try to win this game. That's all there is to it. And, dress rehearsal going on out there. It's a meaningful game, trying to win. So that told me that Matt Barkley was not somebody that they were that concerned about. I could be wrong about that. It could just be as simple as Chip said. Maybe he just wanted the 10th win because that looks better. I don't know. But they went out and signed Tebow. That's more than they've shown any kind of interest in Matt Barkley in the last 2 years. So I got a feeling that Tebow's got a leg up, and that they will try to find ways to do something with him, whatever that is. Pat Sheridan, the offensive coordinator, said, looking forward to seeing him in games because he's a gamer kind of a guy. Tebow's the kind of, he might not be in a practice session because, things aren't breaking down, people running around doing, unexpected things. He's a guy that improvises well, makes big plays when people are trying to, tackle him from behind, that kind of thing. So he's looking forward to seeing what happens when Tebow's out there on the field doing something. That tells you a little bit about their mindset with this guy. The potential there with Tebow, if they were banking on him being the starting quarterback and they were putting a lot of stock in that they could get him going after 2 years out of the league, I'd be worried about that. But as a guy to be their number 3 guy and maybe some novelty plays that you come up, there's no real harm in that, I would think.
Phil Sheridan.com's NFL Nation. There's the Eagles. He's at Sheridan Scribe on Twitter to follow his stuff from camp. And Nolan Carroll is an interesting guy. He came over here last year, and it set people that this guy looks like he's having a good. And then we never really saw him. And then we were like, wow, if he can't get on the field over Fletcher, that's a problem. Now it sounds again like they really like him. What is different between Carroll this and last year? And it looked like he's going to be the guy opposite Byron Maxwell.
I think there's a very good chance of it. Going into the whole thing, I kind of thought, they wanted a real job, but they wanted him to take it, earn it, go out there and have to be a guy that beats somebody out, and that Carroll was a good guy for that role because he'd been here, has a little more experience in the defense and everything, fair amount of experience overall. Here's a guy that Rowe, could overtake and feel like he earned the job and had to take it away from somebody who, with more experience and all that kind of stuff. But the more they talk about it, Bill Davis, the defensive coordinator, the other day was talking about all the stuff that he's seen from Carroll. Kind of admitted that he probably should have got him on the field instead of Bradley Fletcher at some point last year. So all that, it just seems like what happens to these guys with the coaching staff here is that, not just them, but around the league. In training camp and in the summer, there's competitions, everything's kind of open, everybody's being evaluated. And then, when the season starts, it's more about the, week-to-week game planning and trying to manage, problems as they come up. And a guy like Carroll, when he was, I think he had a little bit of a minor injury during camp, last year, maybe a hamstring, something like that. He was, down for enough time that they went on without him. And then once the season starts, it's hard to really, unless somebody gets hurt in front of you, it's hard to really change the role that much. So I think he kind of fell into that last year. By the end of the last game of the year, they did start, Carroll in the game finally. Didn't exactly do that well. Odell Beckham Jr. had about 200 yards against him last year in that final game, so it wasn't like the secondary suddenly got better. It makes me nervous that, Kelly made fixing the secondary a major priority, spent $63 million on a 6-year deal for Byron Maxwell, but half the starting secondary right now is Carroll, who was here last year, and Walter Thurman, who is playing out of position, moving from cornerback to safety. So I would feel a lot more optimistic about it if the second-round pick and somebody with some safety experience was part of the starting secondary. But, they're basing on what they're seeing on film in every practice session. So, it's not like they're pulling stuff out of thin air. So I have to take a little bit of it on faith, but we'll see what happens when they're on the field and they don't know what route the other team is running, that kind of thing.
All right, a couple quickies for you, Phil. Who, in your mind, is in the lead at right guard?
It was interesting. This week we got out there and John Moffitt was the number 1 right guard the last couple of days here. I thought Matt Tobin going into it was the guy that was going to get the first real crack at it, but they signed Moffitt. Something else that Pat Shermer said today, that he just kind of took on along the lines of, that Moffitt's like a really smart guy. And he said it in a way that made me think that Moffitt is, come here and in very little time, very little practice time, seems to know what they're doing, and he's picking it up pretty well. So I wanted to think of Tobin because he was the guy they put up there, and he was the guy that got benched last year during the season. He was having trouble. He playing some left guard. They moved him over to right guard when Harriman's got hurt, and in the adjustment from left to right, he kind of said that he was just doing things a little backwards because everything you do, you have to do kind of. It's like dancing, the male lead dancer has to do certain things, and the woman or the female dancer or the person following has to do them all backwards, that kind of thing. It's a little bit like that, and he was doing, leading with, coming off with his left when he should have been coming off with his right, and those kind of things got him off balance a little bit, and once he got off balance, he got beat. So there was enough film of him, and the coaches had to basically put Andrew Gardner in ahead of him last year, during the season. So there's definitely an opening up for Moffitt, and it seems like he might be the guy that they're looking at right now.
All right, Phil Sheridan covering the Eagles up at the NovaCare Center. They get ready for the Colts on Sunday. We'll still wait to see if we'll get the debut of Sam Bradford, but it sounds like if we do, it'll be definitely worth watching, and we'll dive more into the Eagles with Phil throughout the season. Always a pleasure, my man. Take care, pal.
I enjoyed it. Thanks.